Alright, we've just docked in Portland, Maine, our first port of call. Today we're going to be doing a walkabout of this lovely city, as well as hopping on a vintage fire engine for a narrated tour. We had an excellent first night's sleep. The beds were really comfortable, and we managed to stop the bed floor light by covering it with a pillow. That put an end to its repeated false readings, which were causing the light to come on when no one was moving. We arose at around 7:30 and opened the curtains to the sun rising over the water, which was an absolutely incredible sight. Let's hope the old adage of red sky in the morning does not bear true. The plan this morning was to have breakfast in the main dining room, so we made our way down to the restaurant where we'd been the night before. But unfortunately that seemed to now be booked for suite guests, and we had to make our way to the Allegro main dining room, and after a relatively short wait we got seated.
And then, my favourite. Do you want some smoked salmon?
No, you want to go for a while. Why, have you got enough smoked salmon?
Can't eat all this.
I opted for an American breakfast. I like to try one at least once every trip.
Yeah, very nice.
I've got onion and capers as well if you want.
No, I'm fine. Very nice. Good morning. And you join us in Portland, Maine, for our first stop on this cruise. And we've just been down to breakfast. Joanne had a lovely smoked salmon bagel. She had to make it herself, but the masses of smoked salmon that they bought was incredible. And I had an American breakfast, which I thoroughly enjoyed, together with a cappuccino. So the plan is that we'll probably get off the ship and we will just have a saunter around the port. We have nothing planned at all today, no excursions, and I think the current thinking is that we'll visit the old port and just wander around and enjoy ourselves. We're going with our friends, and the sun is out, it's lovely. I think the temperature is set to be 16 degrees. We actually woke to an incredible sunrise this morning, which was a really nice way to start the day off. Anyway, let's get on with our trip.
Disembarkation was super easy. There was no need to rush, we were just having a stroll around the area. Wow, there's a load of old pier pilings here that poke out of the water. It's a bit difficult to say. It's quite incredible to see, and it really lets you know about the historic roots of this area. After we got off the ship, there was a bit of a walk from the mooring over to the cruise terminal, but luckily they had a golf cart on hand which offered lifts, and of course we jumped right on. A total lifesaver. The cruise terminal sits on Commercial Street, which is basically the heart of Portland's historic waterfront, known as the Old Port. This whole area was actually built on reclaimed land. Back in the 1850s, the city literally filled in parts of the harbour using landfill from nearby hills so they could expand the railroads and build up the commercial side of the port area. Outside the cruise terminal, a small market catered for the needs of the tourists, selling a range of artisan goods as well as some tourist souvenirs. From the moment it was created, it became the centre of Portland's working waterfront. You could just see the trains, ships, fish markets and warehouses, a constant movement and trade. But after the World War II, things slowed down as the marine industries declined and the area started to lose some of its economic punch.
And it's a really nice day, absolutely gorgeous. Loving Portland so far, really nice.
And these boats are the Casco Bay Fire Departments. Fast forward to the 70s and 80s, developers wanted to turn the waterfront into condos, shops and offices, you name it. But the locals, especially the fishermen, fought back. And in 1987 they actually voted for a moratorium on non-marine development to protect that authentic maritime vibe. Today, this street is a blend of historic wharves, working boats and a lively mix of restaurants, shops and waterfront views. It's got so much character that it was even named one of the top 10 great streets in America. The old Custom House is a street back and it's an impressive building, probably due to Portland being one of America's most significant seaports back in the 19th century, with massive, for the time, customs duties being collected. This building was rebuilt at that time following the city-wide Portland Great Fire, which destroyed the previous building.
So we're at Post Office Park, lovely little park, lots of shade from the trees, quite small, obviously named after the post box that I saw as I came in the park, but a very nice place just to sit and relax and to take the weight off your feet. Really nice. On the other side of the park, there's a mural on the side of the house, which is very contemporary, made up of a number of different shapes and different colours. Looks very nice. So up the top of the street I can see a spa in front of me, and I'm making my way there to see what it's like. Looks interesting. So the building in front of us is the City Hall. Nicely framed.
Here we are in the heart of downtown Portland. You can't miss this massive granite classical style building with a tower that really dominates the skyline, making it easy to spot and a really useful landmark when navigating. The current building was finished around 1912, but it's actually the third City Hall, the previous ones being lost to fire. So this building is all about resilience and statement, fireproof granite, grand staircases and those gorgeous arched windows. It's still the centre of city government today, and behind the grand facade you will find offices. This is where all the civic action happens. Portland Fire Department is actually one of the oldest firefighting organisations in the country. This building is their headquarters, built in the early 20th century. Inside it's home to engines, rescue units, all the firefighting apparatus and the teams who keep the city safe every day.
And this is the Cumberland Courthouse. Very grandiose looking building. Obviously lit up at night as well. And in front of the courthouse we have this little park. Looks like quite a nice place to just sit and gather your thoughts, probably before you hear your sentence passed. So this building is apparently the federal courthouse for more severe cases and is 150 plus years old, whilst the other courthouse, which is just down the road, is actually the state courthouse and is used for less severe crimes. I love these fire escapes. It's something I've always associated with cities in the States. Absolutely beautiful. So this shop sells local craft and jewellery. Has a lovely smell coming out of it, you wouldn't believe. Really, really nice. So I just had a lovely conversation with a local jeweller. I went in to just see if there was anything of interest Joanne. And there was a few things, but nothing that really stood out. But I had a really good conversation. She's just set herself up in business on her own for the first time. Lots of quaint shops along here, small shops, not large brands. Really nice. I think we're now in the Old Port area.
So earlier we booked a sightseeing tour at one of the booths, so we better get back for it.
So this is going to be our sightseeing tour vehicle.
This fire bus tour was highly regarded on TripAdvisor and used what they describe as vintage fire engines from the 70s. That's younger than us. There's no hope for us at all. It cost us around $38 each, and each fire truck holds around 13 guests. So we climb up onto this bright red old school fire truck. Wooden benches, not particularly comfortable I may hasten, chrome details and that classic fire engine vibe. The engine starts up, it's loud at the best, and suddenly we're rolling through Portland like we're part of history.
This is my favorite public park in Portland. I brought one tandem kayak with me, so two of us can paddle. I just need everyone else to hold on the side and kick so we have motors. Volunteers. No.
The route loops around the city and takes around 50 minutes. First it takes us across the Portland Peninsula, along Casco Bay to the Eastern Promenade, passing picturesque lighthouses, old harbours and Civil War era forts. As we roll through the city, our guide shares intense fire stories, massive blazes, close calls, buildings that were lost and others that survived, shaping how Portland rebuilt itself. Much of the city's history centres around the Great Fire of 1866, the largest urban fire in America at the time. It began in a boathouse on Commercial Street, the very place that our tour started. There's something fitting, if not a little ironic, about exploring the city's past aboard a fire engine. Alongside the narration, an onboard multimedia system displays historic photographs from the Maine Historical Society, which bring the stories to life with old photographs as we move through the streets. As the guide points out the key locations, we pass the old Portland Observatory, a large number of historic government buildings, some of which are still government buildings, churches and cemeteries. We learn about Portland's neighbourhoods, where the wealthy once lived, where workers settled, and how each area played its part in the city's story. We make a sharp turn at the Western Promenade, which, like the eastern one we first visited, started life as an industrial area, not the scenic park that they've now become. Over the decades, Portland reclaimed them for public promenades, turning former docks, railway lines and shipping yards into iconic places for leisure. Finally, we return back to Commercial Street, having had a fantastic insight and overview of the city. We have learnt more of its history, found some places to explore later, and if I'm honest, we all had slightly sore bums, but hey, we have to make some sacrifices in the pursuit of knowledge.
If you got some questions, you want recommendations, I've lived here my whole life. I'd be happy to point you all in the right direction. So, thank you all so much.
So, just been on a really nice tour of the city in an old vintage. Apparently it was a 1971 vintage fire truck, very small one. Wasn't capable of dispensing much water before it needed to fill up. But it gave a fascinating look around the city, enabled us to get a good idea of what was here. And I'm now making my way towards the Immaculate Conception, which is a cathedral, and seeing what's there. It looked quite interesting on the tour, and it's on the rough way back to the ship.
A photo?
No, it's a video.
No, do you want a photo?
No, it's fine, thank you.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure, thank you. So we're now at the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. This is, I think, the second highest building in Portland, by about 6 inches.
So, work on this church began in 1866 as Portland City was growing fast. However, disaster struck, and you will remember that that was the same year as the Great Fire of Portland, which actually destroyed nearly the entire structure of this church while it was still being built. However, after fundraising and rebuilding efforts, it was eventually completed on September 1869. Disaster struck again when a storm knocked down the newly built steeple on the first night. It was rebuilt soon afterwards, and it's stood tall ever since. I was very fortunate to go inside. As people left the church, they held the door open for me and invited me in. the interior was quite different to what I'd expected. The ceiling soars 70 foot above us with classic Gothic ribbed arches. A pipe organ, once the largest in the country, dominates one wall, and the interior is very light and breezy.
Now I'm feeling this is the back of the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception.
So this is a 1927 extension to the cathedral, which is known as the Cathedral or the Parish Hall.
So I've just been on an interesting look around some of the old churches. So I went to the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception, and someone very graciously let me inside. Really nice, very different from what I expected. Very nice aquamarine interiors and some lovely stained glass windows.
A block down on Congress Street is St Paul's Anglican Church. It was first established in 1763, and then the original structure was destroyed during the American Revolutionary War when the British bombarded the town in 1775. A later building was then lost in the Great Portland Fire, and the present church was completed in 1868. Today, the attached wooden building was undergoing renovation.
And then went a little bit further on and looked at the Church of St Paul, and that was being renovated. Seemed to be a wooden building off to one side, that's just the part that was being renovated, and then the main building itself was a stone building. And again, you know, it's interesting to read some of the history, and from the tour that we've just done, which laboured on the Great Fire of Portland, it's very clear that that last church suffered during its time, was razed to the ground during the Great Fire of Portland. Anyway, I'm near a cemetery now, which is the Eastern Cemetery. We passed this on the tour, and we also passed the Western Cemetery. Interestingly enough, the northern perimeter, which is a bit further ahead, and the western perimeter, which is behind me, both of those were originally pig farms, and now they're actually areas of quite outstanding natural beauty, you know, parks in their own right. So yeah, so let's have a look at this cemetery then. So leaving the cemetery and making my way back towards the boat now, or ship I should say. Portland's interesting. It doesn't have a great deal of must-see attractions, but the thing that I loved about it was all of the different architectures, the little shops, you know, a lot of artisan shops, a lot of unique clothing shops and silvers and art galleries. It's a nice city to have a stroll round. Doing the tour, you couldn't do a lot of videography and get anything decent out of it, I don't think, but it gave you an interesting summary of, you know, what the city held, a little bit about the individual areas, the eastern perimeter and the western perimeter, the differences between them, and you could see it in things like the architecture. The western side of the town, there's a lot of Victorian red buildings, brick buildings, and those were largely built by an Irish workforce, and they were destroyed, actually, a large number of the buildings there during the Great Fire of Portland, and actually they rebuilt, I think he said it was 6,700 homes were rebuilt in a 1 year period after the Great Fire, which is an incredible accomplishment. He went on to say that they were renovating one of the historic Victorian houses that had been owned by a hotelier. I forgot his name, but so far it cost about $8 million, and it had taken them 2 years to renovate one house. That's incredible. I know I'm heading in the right direction as I can see the ship ahead. Good news.
So we made it back in time for a late lunch in the restaurant. Beside the cruise terminal there was a narrow gauge railway track with a small museum and a train. Unfortunately I didn't film it, but these tiny narrow track trains were unique to this region and they served the rural communities. As being half the gauge they were far cheaper to build. But with our stomachs calling we made our way back onto the ship and up to the buffet where we enjoyed a nice light snack. Our afternoon was spent relaxing, reading in the cabin.
So we're just on our way to meet our friends for a spot of drinking in the grill bar, which is quite nice. We had a nice afternoon actually. We relaxed on the balcony, read some books, and it was surprisingly hot. In fact, actually, you could quite bask in it.
At 1800 hours, as the sun set on the horizon, we left Portland Port and the USA as we headed north to our next port, St John. Tomorrow will be a day at sea and our first formal night.
This is a prawn cocktaily thingy.
Not shrimp. No, it's a shrimp cocktail.
Oh, it's a shrimp cocktail. Lovely, thank you.
Do you want to be on camera? Smile. They all love it, do
So I'm going to pull. Oh, there we go. That's better than the first take.
This is a shrimp cocktail, and it's an absolutely gorgeous shrimp cocktail.
I just missed my mouth.
And Joanne is cracking up behind me for some completely unknown reason.
I missed my mouth.
The same.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sean's
Fettuccine. It's really nice. Far too much alcohol. Far too much alcohol going on here. That's the trouble with going on holiday with your friends. Or your enemies. Is too much alcohol. And I have had too much alcohol. But I do like the fettuccine though.
And I've gone for the seared scallops. Which is absolutely delightful. With additional comic value for my friends and wife.
Creme brulee.
Where did the creme brulee come from, Joanne?
It's very, very nice, and it's got
Potato on it, but
some sort.
Actually, I'd rather have
It looks like a potato, but I don't know what it is.
the green gunk in the morning.
It's like a
Potato and cream.
cake. A cake. Oh, it's very. Oh.
After that delightful meal, join us tomorrow night when we have our first formal night and then we go on to the port of St John.